Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Come on along and welcome aboard the Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals here on this Monday, May 17th. It is a wet, soggy bottom boys day out there, Todd O'Leary. I listened to the rainfall all night long.
Yeah, it was coming down hard and long.
It was a perfect sleeping weather, and we got a great, enjoyable show for you today. On the program with us, Hall of Famer, member of the IU radio broadcast crew, Joe Smith is with us. Christian Lander is going to join us as well. Looking forward to talking to him. Last Dance finished up the last dance of the Last Dance last night. NASCAR returned, thoroughbred racing. The Vanilla Thriller Priller, he got engaged. Tim Priller got engaged, Todd O'Leary.
Sweet. That's all the news. That's all that requires. That's not a sports. It's not a sports.
It's just something to throw in there. Congratulations to the Vanilla Priller Thriller. I think he goes by. Last Dance last night. Any takeaways from that? For episode 9, we saw a lot of the Pacers, Dale Davis, and Reggie. Man, Reggie, one of the greatest streak shooters, man. But they were close. They just couldn't get over that hump.
Yeah, no, that was. I remember being at those games, and you know, the NBA doesn't generally have that atmosphere. Although I was shocked to hear them talk so much about Utah and how crazy it was in Utah, because I was at Market Square during those games, and it was loud like college basketball loud, which the NBA generally doesn't get that. And with the new arenas, it's really hard to get that way nowadays anyway. But those were some great memories, and I remember being at those games when Reggie hit that 1 3-pointer to win the game. I've never been in a place that went crazier than that. It was so much fun.
And the shots of old Market Square Arena, man, yeah. I love that place. The coolness of it. It sat over the street, over Market Street, of course. But what a cool venue I thought that was.
Yeah, well, it obviously had special meaning for me because that's where we won our state championship. So, I loved it. I hated when it got torn down, but I'm also okay with the change because Bankers Life Fieldhouse is beautiful and nice, and yeah, it's not bad. So, yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of, it's interesting for I guess I'll say Pacer fans. I'm going to say Indiana people because I guess maybe you still need to be an Indiana fan, a Pacers fan, but I remember, I didn't like the Bulls. I mean, I respected the heck out of Michael Jordan, but I wanted the Pacers to win so badly. And, last night, it's funny how, 25 years will change you, because last night I'm sitting there going, oh, my gosh, that would have been terrible if they would have lost that. And at the time,
that would have made that documentary really horrible.
Documentary been a lot different. It just sounds, it's so complete to say 2 3-peats. I mean, to have those 2 3-peats really, really, it completes his career. It makes it different. If it was a 3-peat and then, a back-to-back, and then they lost in his last year with the Bulls, that whole thing, when you can say something, if it's not a prediction, yes, but when Phil Jackson can put out a little team booklet that says The Last Dance on it, and they know, how many times do you know ahead of time, like, this is the last year for all of us. This is the last year we're all going to be together. And then to be able to be successful and win that year, it just doesn't happen very often. No. It's just a scenario that doesn't come into play very often. And so the documentary, it was so funny because I remember leaving. I remember after they lost in the 7th game to the Bulls, I was so upset and devastated. As upset and devastated as I've ever been on a team that I didn't play on. And then to think, like, this time later, last night, I was like, gosh, that would have really sucked if they would have lost. The Bulls being, and it's just such a difference.
Well, and those 2 3-peats, man, you got to see how really, really tough it is to do that. I mean, it took everything they had and more for it to come to completion. The Pacers, man, they were just this close. And I think it was a Steve Kerr shot in a game that Reggie said turned the game around. He goes, at that moment,
right. Yep.
And it's that kind of game.
I remember
one shot goes the other way. It's
yep.
amazing, like you're talking about. But man, oh man,
at the one point they were talking about the jump ball. I mean, if they just
get the jump
win
ball,
the jump ball, the game probably goes different.
I think because that preceded the shot that he hit.
Exactly. I mean, it went to Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen threw it straight to Steve Kerr, and he made a three. It was one of those situations that that was a series that it went to Game 7. It probably, it's like the end of their run. I mean, they won a second three-peat, so that's one of those series you'd love to say, hey, I don't care if this series goes on 27 games. I mean, I could watch these two teams play each other every game of the year.
How about the Pizzagate? The flu game apparently was not the flu game. Food poisoning from a late night order pizza with 5 delivery guys. I forget who it was, his trainer or whatever said, I thought it was really weird when you get 5 guys delivering the pizza. And he goes, I had a really weird feeling about it. And boy, it proved prophetic.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things with that story that with a lot of grown men in the room and surrounding the situation, you would have thought they would have thought themselves through that a little bit better. I mean, I guess
they thought, no one's really going to do that. Apparently they probably really did. Now I'm waiting for somebody to come out. That's next. Somebody out there is going to come out with a story, whether true or not. They're going to say, oh yeah, I was working at pizza, whatever it was. And we did this. We knew it was for Michael and we thought this.
Well, they better remember something. They better remember something. The guy they did that to is a billionaire, and he can spend a lot of money trying to make sure that you feel just as bad as he did for a couple days.
Oh boy, man, that just weird stuff. I saw a pair of Jordan game worn shoes from '85, I think, sold for $560,000.
Yeah, that's somebody that has too much expendable income.
You got any $500,000 shoes lying around?
I don't know if I have any $50 shoes laying around.
Man, $500,000 for a pair of game worn. Now, I mean, I know it's cool and all, but $500,000. Yeah, you got to have this stupid money. You got to have like Michael Jordan money to do that.
Yeah,
Michael Jordan could afford to pay that.
Got to have Joe Smith kind of money to be doing something like that.
Can't wait to get JoJo on. See what JoJo's been up to. Joe Smith, the Hall of Fame broadcaster out of Bloomington.
You've been practicing your radio voice?
Joe Smith.
I'm going to have to practice my radio voice with Joe gets on.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle O'Leary. Joe Smith joins us.
He makes me sound like more of a hillbilly when he talks.
He's a smooth talking Joe Smith. Yeah, he's a smooth sound. NASCAR returned. Kevin Harvick, they were in Darlington. I don't know what the ratings were like, but it seemed like it was a good race. I was watching it, in and out. But it was cool to have something back to watch. I know they were betting on that. And speaking of betting, thoroughbred racing, also Churchill Downs over the weekend. A normal handle for them on a day is like $5 million on a Saturday, I think. They did $14 million in betting. So people, they looking for some sports, man.
Yeah, the degenerates are getting restless.
Can you imagine? Normally, you think of people out there at the track gambling. You got the program in their hand, got a big old little short stogie in their mouth. Yeah, I guess I can see them sitting at home in their living room in a little lawn chair doing the same thing. Got the program out, you got the stogie, a little short hat on.
Probably sitting in the front yard.
Oh man,
I can visualize it too.
You got to do something, I guess, during this time.
I'm with you. Hey, I'm not knocking anybody right now. Anything to entertain yourself and stay out of trouble is a good thing.
Ernie Thompson, also a former Indiana football player, fulfilled a promise to coach Bill Mallory, and he graduated at age 50 from Indiana. Ernie Thompson.
I saw that. That was a cool story.
Very, very cool story. Staying at it, man. You're never too late. That's a very cool thing to see.
Did you watch the entire documentary last night?
Yes.
Did you see the lady's language from Indianapolis?
The Pacers, the blonde-headed woman? Yes. And it was so clear. I'm like going, oh, God, somebody knows this. A lot of people know this lady, and she's getting text right now. And then they kept coming back to her, and she's mother effing. And I'm wow.
She said, in your effing face.
I was like, wow. Yeah, I'm sure. There you go, Indiana.
Truly though, that part of it is what reminded me of how badly I wanted the Pacers to beat the Bulls. Like I
her too, apparently.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like that level of, I guess we'll call it excitement. I mean, intensity. That was fun. Yeah. But between that and the Flamingo guy who was always at the games, I mean, there was some insanely passionate Pacers fans.
Oh, and the funny thing is that woman was like front row right behind the bench because they kept pulling back, and I don't know who the player was, but you could hear every time she'd start, you could hear him. He'd turn like, oh, because she was like, must have been pretty close to being in his ear, whoever the player was, but she wasn't yelling at him, but just he could hear everything she was saying. He was like, ooh.
She was legit. That's a legit fan right there. That's the one you want on your team, not the others.
That looks like one of those Michigan protesters up there in the state capitol guys, man. She was getting jiggy with it. She was serious about that.
She was not happy with someone.
Nope. She was. Yeah. The intensity level was amazing. But you played in that gym. You talked about winning the state title there. But what was it like playing in there? Did you enjoy it?
I did. That arena was one of those that kind of, I don't know how to explain this other than to say like it kind of had the high banking, to use like your NASCAR references, where it was a great shooting gym because it seemed like the seats behind the basket were close. So you had a good background. You had a kind of a solid background in there. So I thought it was, it's a much easier gym to shoot in than a place like Bankers Life, for example. But like I'll also say, you get used to it. Your eyes adjust and you get used to shooting in, especially, for the Pacers and things like that. Like they probably don't even notice it. But when you only play a couple of games there's a definite difference. And, leading into the state championship, I mean, you get 1 hour of practice time to go in there and get used to it and adjust and all that. Luckily, I had a member of my family that was in charge of running Market Square Arena. So there was a time or two I might have gotten some extra shots up.
Did they put you on anybody's shoulders and run the tape measure down from the?
Yeah, no, we didn't do that. We didn't do that. That had yet to happen. That had yet to happen in the movie.
I saw. I think it was your buddy Jake Query who put a poll up the other day asking, and maybe not have been him, but if people call it a basketball goal or a basketball hoop, and the overwhelming majority of people answering that poll said basketball hoop, and I'm like, and everybody responding underneath said, I've never heard anybody refer to it that way, and I haven't either. I've always called it a basketball goal, field goal percentage, but yeah, that was just kind of a weird thing. I couldn't believe how it was like 80% said that. I'm like, no, this is not accurate. I don't think people.
But those 80%, I would say, are people from Indiana, and I'm not ripping. I'm from Indiana. I'm saying, like, I think us more hillbillies people call it a hoop. I'm going to play hoops. I'm not going to play goals.
Yeah, I'm going to hoop it up. Go hoop it up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get the point. And you know what? He's hilarious about being able to come up with little goofy things like that. And it just sticks in his craw. And if he can't figure out what's the right way to do it or call it or whatever. But you're right. I mean, you ask somebody from Arizona that question or somebody from California, they're going to say a basketball goal. They're not going to say a hoop. If they do, they probably have relatives from Indiana.
We'll have to get Jake on here one day. We got lots more coming up. The Hall of Famer Joe Smith is going to join us next. Looking forward to that. Christian Lander's on with us today as well. Stay tuned. We got tons more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. We're back right after this.
Loves your mama, loves Jesus in America.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Ryan Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the golf club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by our Rivals here on this Monday, and couldn't think of a better way to start it off with our old friend Joe Smith. Joe, how are you, brother?
Well, hanging in there, fellas. How we doing?
We're getting by. Todd's keeping busy out on the golf course when it's
you
dry.
make me nervous every time you're on here, Joe, because I got to practice my radio voice even more because you make me sound like a hillbilly.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're getting out and hitting the ball. Fairways and greens, I hope, huh?
Oh, occasionally.
But, yeah, we're come on in, Trey. I have a little service at the door here. But, trying to survive like everybody else, just totally overwhelmed here for the last, 10 weeks now that we're into this. So, it is what it is, and today's Monday. I always have a saying that, especially on the first part of the week, seize the day and seize the week. So we move all forward and hopefully cross those T's, tracing and testing, and hope for good stuff here in the next 2-3 months.
We were just talking a little bit ago, the Last Dance wrapped up. Have you been following along with the Michael Jordan documentary on ESPN?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, I was enjoying the episode 9 and getting ready for episode 10, and that's when the storm hit and my goodbye DirecTV. So I'm anticipating sometime watching the the final chapter in MJ's career.
I think Jimmy muted himself and he doesn't realize it.
But it really came down last night, right as the final episode was starting.
Boy, tell us that story again. You got muted, unfortunately,
Jojo. Probably one of the best documentaries I've seen in my life, really, to be honest with you. Well done.
You know, right when I asked you that question, and you said you're glad to ask you that, our producer actually muted us. So what did you say when you said you're glad we asked that question?
What was that again? I had a drill going on.
When I first asked you that question, Jimmy accidentally muted you when I asked about the documentary, and
so we couldn't hear your answer.
Oh, well, I thought it was so well done. We had a storm hit, right as the 10th and final episode was starting out, so I missed it. So I'm going to have to dial it back in and see how it all ended.
Well, for episode 9 at least, we got to see a lot of the Pacers, and we Todd said he was at all those games back then. Reggie and Larry Bird and Dale Davis, and man, what a great battles that was for Hoosier basketball fans.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of interesting to see, and Reggie even made the motion that he kind of shoved Michael away there. Getting a little room to take that jump shot that won that ball game, but at Market Square, or wherever we played back in those days, that wasn't Market Square, it was the Banker's Life, wasn't it? But anyway, Conseco, one of those three. Some great stuff in that the video footage, and that was a great team the Pacers had, Larry's squad, and that was real good viewing, no question.
Todd was at those games. Maybe we're talking about the excitement and the atmosphere of those, Todd. It's like being in Assembly Hall.
It was awesome. And it had a college atmosphere. But, it's funny because as Reggie was describing that quote push off last night, it was funny because I was just thinking to myself, the way Jordan would say that is, Jordan's momentum was carrying him that way anyway, just like Brian Russell at the end of that Utah game. But when he said his push off didn't really matter. The funny part is you wouldn't hear Jordan complain a bit about that push-off because that's what those guys did to get open. And it was just that atmosphere and that desire to be – I mean, when you think about that the Pacers team back then, and obviously I've thought about it a lot more lately than I normally would have, but when you look at that team and how good they really were, and then they even said it, like to a man – even to the coach Larry Bird, it's very unusual for him to say something like this and point out the fact that their entire goal, they had premeditated and thought ahead of time about the fact that they could be the one to end Michael Jordan's run of terror on the NBA. And when you have that many really, really unbelievably good basketball players and coaches and everybody involved gunning to take you down and you're still able to beat them, that pretty much solidifies the fact that you're the best of all time, in my opinion.
Well, no question about it. I did catch toward the end Scott Van Pelt's, who's the fellow for ESPN that they used that did the little story on the comparison between MJ and LeBron James. It wasn't even close. And those figures, during that 90 to 98 run, those 6 titles in 8 years, and what they have done since, the winning percentage, just that's all you need to know. 77% compared to 44% since then, the Bulls' activity on the NBA hardwood. So he's the greatest player I've ever seen. Bob Knight I said that from day one, and it didn't take him long to understand how, at a young age anyway, when Bob had a chance to work with him here in the Olympic trials, just what kind of a player he was going to be.
Yeah, no doubt about that, and the specialness of that. And talk about dynasties, you've seen in Indiana high school basketball, there's been a few great dynasties through the years that we've seen, whether it was at Marion or, Todd had some great teams there, but there were some really great runs. Who would you equate to maybe the 2 or 3 top runs of all time in high school, Indiana?
Do you have to put an asterisk through and say he can't say Bloomington South?
Well, I don't know. The Bloomington South has had that kind of a run.
It's too bad because I had my heart set. Well, we even go back to the March 13th. I can't even remember if I put coffee in the pot this morning, but there are some things I do remember, and obviously My main concern going to Seymour on the 14th of March this year was, scripting my open to, try to explain what had happened that week and why there were going to only be 75 fans in an 8,300 seat regional setting at Seymour. But what could have been, that's the old tale of the tape. I was anticipating a championship out of the South Panthers, didn't get it. I go back, I grew up on the west side in Indianapolis a few, more than a few years ago, a few decades ago. And anyway, I remember the Washington Continentals, that Bill Green had before he moved to Marion. And they were an excellent basketball team. Shortridge with Oscar Evans, George Theophanis, some of his neighbors I grew up with in my neighborhood back in the day. And George Theophanis got a lot out of the Shortridge Blue Devils. And we're only talking 1 or 2 years, but some great basketball on the part of those two Indianapolis teams. And then, of course, the job that Bill did with the Marion Giants. We have to put Marion there at the top of the list. And but it's kind of hard to say. Sustaining, you use that word dynasty, sustaining success on the high school beat over, several years, even difficult. Beyond 2 years, is so hard to do. That's pretty tough to categorize, guys.
Yeah, it is. That's because you don't have those same players after a few years. It's gone. But, you're right. Those teams at Marion, Todd, I think that was a few years right before you. You probably played against a lot of those guys. Jay Edwards, Lyndon Jones. Wow, what a run. I think 3 straight that they won.
I played against them once, and we lost by 50 points. Yes, I have lost by 50 points twice in my career. And one of them was
and I wasn't slighting you, Toddy boy. I mean, all I got to do is just mention LN and Jack Kiefer and the guys that you had. I know that, talking about Lawrence North, Connolly and Oden, and they ended my season in Bloomington North in the semifinals. We played them down at Bedford North Lawrence, as that turned out to be the final game in Tom McKinney's career. But those teams that Jack had and the ones that you played on with Eric Montross, not bad. You won a few.
They weren't bad. But that Marion group was just different. I mean, man, those guys. I was a sophomore when they came in and played us, and I mean, it wasn't even like it was a JV versus varsity game. It wasn't even a comparison. But it's just fun to talk to guys like you, Joe. That the stories that guys like you could tell. I used to always love when we would do the IU broadcast and some of the stuff you would tell about the old high school games and that stuff, because there are so many guys that have such great memories of old high school games. I mean, you're naming schools in Indianapolis where I'm from and grew up that I barely ever even heard of. And I've only heard stories about them. So it's just, it's cool to have guys like you that have that knowledge and memory of those things.
Well, and Marion always kind of brought a finality to my season-ending broadcasting chores, and we can't leave out Zach Randolph in the year that Jared and Scott May and Bloomington North played the Marion Giants and lost that game. They were unbeaten that year, of course, and there were should have won that game and didn't, but Zach Randolph was unstoppable, and that's another memory that I have with another great team that the Marion Giants fielded, and that was on into right at the start of the century or the new decade or whatever they call it, 2000, 2001. So.
Joe, what are you going to do to spend the rest of your summers? We're waiting for the return of sports, though, slowly kind of trickling back, but we had thoroughbred racing and NASCAR racing over the weekend. But what are you doing to spend your time now?
Well, my Twin Spires account's getting good work. I'm all excited about Thursday at 2:30. My hair looks like a small shrub, and I finally get to see my barber Carter out in Ellisville at 2:30 on Thursday. I haven't seen him since my last appointment, March the 24th. So, I look like a wild man. Even Trey, my man here, is laughing at that one. But anyway, Twin Spires, interesting developments. Sure, it was great to see, and I mentioned this on my reports today, the Preakness, they've set their date for October 3rd, which is 4 weeks away from the Derby come fall, the Derby being on the first Saturday of September. What I'm awaiting now this week, and I think we'll see something unfold with Governor Cuomo now saying that New York State can resume racing on June 1, when and where the Belmont Stakes will decide, Belmont Park will decide to run the Belmont Stakes, of course, the third leg in the Triple Crown. So we could have it 2 weeks after the Preakness, because keep in mind, the Breeders' Cup this year returns to Lexington and Keeneland November the 6th. So that's going to be interesting because, I'm a big horse race nut, so I've been following that. And obviously I've had I caught one the other day, guys, at Gulfstream Park. It was in the ninth race, Smitten for Smitty. Now, how could you not bet that horse, right? 19-1.
Everything, baby. Bet the house.
Hit the exact. Smitten for Smitty was the name of the horse, with Mikhail Vasquez in the irons, and got a nice one underneath on my exacta wheel, and that's still funding my Twin Spires account. Thank you. So it's been
rolling, man.
That's
rolling.
No, that's been the positive. We've missed a few now. Don't get me wrong. Not sitting here thinking I hit every race. I don't. But it's nice once in a while to find a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to speak.
I'm telling you. Yeah, you mentioned those dates for those races for the Triple Crown. The Derby in September, then the Preakness following that, and then you get to the Belmont. If you're looking at running that race in November in New York, that's going to be a little chilly up there.
Yeah, and, they're going to get going, as I say, somewhere in June 1. I don't know if Belmont will decide to, run that 1.5 miles. Of course, that's the longest distance of the three races, whether or not they opt to go in front of the Derby or fall in place now that the Preakness is set at state October 3rd, whether or not they'll go, say, October 17th maybe, October 24th, and then we got another Saturday in May, Halloween. And then we have all of a sudden the Breeders' Cup is on the scene. So, it's going to be interesting to see where they decide to place that date for the Belmont. And thanks, Strait, my man, coming in Monday and taking care of a little chore here in the chalet on the friendly south side of Bloomington. But anyway, we'll see where they put that date come the end of this week.
Yeah, you meant, and all those dates we talk about, we have to remember, hopefully there's going to be the return of college football, we're going to have a lot going on this fall. If it's going on, there's going to be an abundance of it.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm sitting here. What is today? I have no clue. I know it's Monday, but date-wise, Coach Thomas said he needs about a 6-week window. I just can't see the season starting on time. I really can't. We go to Wisconsin on the 4th, and by the way, that's Oaks Day, getting back to racing for a second. But anyway, I just, the way it stands now, and with every challenge that's going to be facing, especially a sport like football, when you got so many, there are so many challenges that are going to be laid out, even if they allow, teams to come back and start practicing on site. I'm not very optimistic about the true start of the college football season, and that's a shame. And never in my life, ever, this has been so overwhelming that I would even utter that sentence. But it's the way it is right now, so we deal with it.
Well, Joe, brother, we'll keep you busy here no matter what. We appreciate you coming on and joining us. It's always a fun time for us, and we can't thank you enough.
Yeah, I bought, by the way, I'm back in the horse business. Mo Mischief now, young 2-year-old, and he's trained by Todd Pletcher, and he's back getting groomed for the 2-year-old season, Mo Mischief. So keep your eye on that young man as he hopefully blossoms into maybe next year a Kentucky Derby favorite.
We'll be looking for it, brother. Thank you, Joe. I cannot thank you enough. Joe Smith, Hall of Fame broadcaster, joining us here on the program. Joe, we'll talk to you again soon, brother. Thank you a lot.
Hey, you guys stay safe, and we'll talk later this spring and summer, okay?
Sounds great,
see you, buddy.
brother. There's the great Joe Smith, member of the Indiana Broadcasting Crew, Hall of Fame broadcaster, just a great guy to have around. Love talking to JoJo. We got lots more coming up. Christian Lander's going to join us here on the program, and we got plenty more to talk about. Stay tuned. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Back after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Monday, powered by Rivals. Go to thehoosier.com. Complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers in the Big Ten. Christian Lander's going to join us next. Looking forward to that. Of course, everyone waiting for everybody keeps saying the decision. It's not a decision. A decision was made a long time ago on him reclassifying. It's completing all the things that he has to complete to do that. You're basically putting an entire school year of work in over this short time. He had to complete his junior year stuff and then do that for the senior year. So we're looking forward to talking to him and seeing where we are. But
yeah, I mean, escalating that process is not it's not an easy feat by any means. And you and I have discussed it at length on this show. Of it takes a mature attitude and some good support help from your parents and those involved to help you get through that process. And so I think that we all, as Indiana fans, just from the athletic standpoint, we're all rooting like heck that happens and that the process takes place. But you're right, the decision was made, so that part of it was a done deal. Just the process it has to go through and all of the hard work. I mean, that's what everybody kind of forgets, is that the process is the difficult part of it. So I think that's been the part that takes a little bit of time and doesn't happen as fast as we would all we want to snap our fingers and make him eligible and put him in the starting lineup immediately.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I've said it before. I can't imagine. It was a struggle enough for me just to get through what I had to do to begin with. I didn't need to add anything extra on it.
The only thing about I agree with that, and I'm not taking anything away from it. But I also remember my senior year of high school, and where it was a lot of electives that year. I mean, it was just a matter of finishing up a couple of classes, and then you move on to senior year in college, and it's been different. I mean, heck, my last semester of my senior year, I had tennis class, and that was it. So, but that's not the case in high school, and that's not his case for sure. So, yeah,
I had an open period in one period, and then my last period I was an assistant to our football coach. So.
Exactly. I mean, I get that, but that doesn't, I don't in any way take away from the accomplishment of being able to do this.
I couldn't have done. I'm pretty sorry.
I couldn't have done it either.
I was not mature enough. I know.
If they had brought the idea up to me, I probably would have laughed. I would have chuckled him out of the room. I mean, there's no way I could have done that.
Kids are just more mature today. Tim hit us up on the text line, drove up to Chicago this weekend. What's with all the tolls? Apparently you haven't been there in a minute, because that's been like that my entire life. Pay to get on the highway.
The last time you went, 1948?
Yeah. I'm telling you. I bet. Yeah, no, you'd lose that bet if you thought you'd watch NASCAR this weekend. I said the same thing. Ryan from Michigan says, actually not sure about the stay-at-home order date as of now, but still looking forward to the movie theaters opening back up. There's that. Yeah. Alan, Bird's Eye, good morning, guys. Hope all is well with you and yours. All is well here. Finally got a good weekend of camping in. So good weekend for you down there.
That was a good weekend. It was a good weekend for camping. That's for sure.
I don't like to be camping if it's raining like this, though. That's the thing.
Oh, I didn't say I would go camping. I just said it was a good weekend for camping. I'm not you know me. I'm a diva. I'm not a camper.
I bet you, not that camping's not already popular. I bet it's going to be even more popular this summer now. There's a way of social distancing, of getting out. I'm surprised they didn't open the camping parks a little sooner, because that is a way to allow people to do some things that allows you to stay within those the confinements of the social distancing, but they were keeping those closed and whatnot.
I agree with you.
Hopefully that's all changing, but we're getting there. But we're getting there. So what are you going to do? But man, the Last Dance, what a fun time. But you start to thinking, boy, we could see there would be some great mini-series. I'd love to see a mini-series off the Pacers, on that Pacers team with Bird and Reggie. The Bird is coach and all that. There's got to be some cool stories in those little things right there.
Yeah, no, there's no question about that. I mean, just to see, it's so funny that not funny. It's interesting how they just kind of, skim through different series in those documentaries like that, because it's just like what you said. You look at the Pacers, and I mean, we're more familiar with the Pacers because they're from Indianapolis, and we followed Reggie Miller and obviously Larry Bird and all those guys so closely. We know there's a ton of stories within the stories of that. You see Trace Jackson Davis's father on there last night. I mean, there's tons of little stories you could have and little ties that you could have to those teams, and I'm sure the people in Utah have tons of stories about those Jazz teams. And it's just right now when we're all starving to watch anything that's kind of cool or sports related on TV, it would be amazing to watch all those things. If it was the normal world, I mean, I can tell you at some point I probably would have watched all 10 of those episodes. But if this pandemic weren't going on and we weren't confined to being home so much, there's no chance I would have spent every Sunday night watching all of those and look forward to it from like Wednesday on.
Yeah.
So part of it's just dealing with the scenarios we've got going on in the world.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wonder how many times that woman has been outed today. The blonde-headed lady that you talked about earlier.
You just flip on Twitter, and all the TV stations in Twitter all have her picture up, and
oh, really?
Asking who she is.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
yeah. I saw Dave First and all different kinds of guys saying, if anyone knows who this woman is, let me know.
She's going to get, man.
Okay. So I thought this was the case. I was going to say this earlier, but I'm pretty sure that lady is related to one of the car dealers out of Indianapolis. And I'm looking at a tweet right now from Jake that I'm pretty sure that is Ed Martin's daughter. I'm pretty sure, based on what I'm reading out of that, but I could be wrong. Jake knows everything.
It would make sense because those were high dollar seats right behind the opposing bench. So yeah, that would make sense, man.
Yeah.
But there was no way it was not going to take long. I knew that the picture was too crystal clear. It was like, this lady ain't hiding behind nothing here.
Right.
Oh man, it was funny. But yeah, that makes complete sense. But too bad she didn't. I'll just cut out there for a second. But it's the fun that you talked about to have it as a fan for you, someone like you, as a fan having fun like that. That's incredible that you equate that atmosphere to all the games you played in and been to.
It's funny to see that when it's someone that's doing it for the team that you're rooting for, but it's not as funny when you're on the court and you're watching people scream and yell at you. And I'm not equating it to that. It was all actually kind of fun. And it's just what Michael Jordan kind of said. Like, you could see Michael Jordan almost made up scenarios. Not almost. In certain scenarios, he did make up lies about people that he said, somebody said this, and he used it as his own,
middle
grudge. Yeah. It was just a way to get him fired up. That thing about George Karl, where, he said he didn't say hi to him at dinner one night. And you're like, well, hang on a second. Is it really Karl Malone's position to come say hi to Michael Jordan, a player, or is it Michael Jordan's position to go say hi to George Karl? And
he's the GOAT,
I don't care
baby.
one way or the other. Yeah, I don't care one way or another.
It's funny how every series he manufactured. He didn't always have to manufacture. A lot of it was real, but if he had to, the other one was the guy that played for Utah. That when he stopped by to visit them. And the guy, I forget his name, but he said, "Man, why'd you quit? I was going to guard
Brian
you."
Russell. Brian Russell, the guy he made the shot over at the end of the game. Yeah, out of retirement now, bud.
He said, I made a note of that. I put him on the list.
Here's what we don't know. He may have made that whole story up just to have something against Brian Russell to motivate himself. And it's just like I consider that part of his genius and part of what he does. But when you get ladies like that, or there don't have to be ladies. I remember it specifically, like obviously Purdue because of the rivalry, but Michigan also was a place where the fans were they would show up way early before the band was playing, before it was loud, there was music on, and you could hear every word that someone was saying in the arena. And I mean, they would scream. Obviously, I wasn't one of the players they were all that worried about. So most of it was directed at Calvert, but they would scream some of the most ridiculous obscenities you've ever seen.
No surprise there. More offers going out for football in Indiana and a commitment. Also another offer out for basketball. They went down under to get another kicker. Their punter for the last few years, Hayden Whitehead, is from Australia, and they've just now got a commitment from a New Zealander. Coming up from down there as well. So they'll continue in that strain of bringing the guys from down under. James Evans committed to Indiana. That's his name. Then also, go ahead.
Is there less excitement when a kicker commits to a school than if it's a great wide receiver? I mean, would you rather have the number one kicker in the entire world or the number 450 wide receiver?
It would be interesting to see how many schools even scholarship their kickers. Not all schools even scholarship their kickers. So, yeah, that's usually I think Indiana just started doing that.
I'm not even like, I'm not trying to make a point or pick on anyone. I'm just
Right
saying,
on.
like, I remember reading that, and as soon as I saw the commitment, I was like, okay, another commitment. And I read it, and I was like a kicker, and I was like, wah, wah, wah. And I was like, I don't even have a reason I can feel that way. Like, when a punter, I can remember a ton of games when Pat McAfee would pin the team back inside the 10-yard line, 6 times or 5 times in a game, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's the MVP of the game. And when I see the commitment, I'm just like, all right, well, it's hard to get excited about that one.
Also on the basketball side, John Camden, 6'7" wing, who hit 72 threes last year. He's from Pennsylvania, but offer from Indiana. Archie's kind of hitting up that Pennsylvania side, his own home turf. A couple of guys he's talking to over there.
He can go over there and speak that language.
Yeah, well, that's a weird language. They're different over there.
It's difficult to yank those guys away from Villanova. I mean, if a guy's got an opportunity, Villanova is your real battle there. I mean, it's not the Kentucky or Duke. It's if they've got the opportunity to play kind of close to home, and Jay Wright's a kind of a player's coach, and that whole atmosphere. I read Jay Wright's book one time, and it's a great book, and he's kind of got some Phil Jackson motivational type things that he does, and he would be a tough guy to recruit against, not to mention that program is really good. I've always said, when a way to beat some of this competition is to get the great coaches to move on, and Jay Wright leaving Villanova, like, it'd be great for a college basketball for him to stay forever, but that's a guy that I can see one of these days, getting lured to the NBA or somewhere for a big, big time contract, because he's a quality coach, and I'm getting long-winded off of that's a tough recruit to get someone away from that area. But if anybody can do it, Archie, because he's from there and he can speak that language.
This kid reminds me a little bit about we just had Will Sheehy on last Friday, I think. 6'7" wing. He averaged almost 16 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and connected on, like I said, 72 threes last season. He had a 37-point performance, which included 10 made threes in a game. It looks good on paper. Does his highlight video include him just diving on the floor all the time? Like, what would make you compare him to Will Sheehy? Just from the looks and body, physical standpoint right now. Haven't seen his game to see that completely, but from a body structure, they kind of physically look like a little bit. But yeah, let's see if he has that complete Will Sheehy game. That should be a great start. What a great. I don't want to say non-star. What's the word I want to look for? Contributor to a team. I mean, man, he was a great Scottie Pippen type player for Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, every team needs, cogs in the machine. I mean, they need people to do other things other than just lead the team in scoring, and they need great defenders, and they need great screeners, and they need guys that move the ball and can offensive rebound and stuff. And so, I mean, every team is not built up of Michael Jordans. And, you're seeing kind of these elite teams nowadays where you're seeing Steph Curry and Kevin Durant and all these guys on one team. And now you're seeing, Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I mean, you're seeing these guys get on, they're amassing 3 all-time superstars on one team. And that doesn't just mean they're going to win. I mean, these teams that get the guys that are doing the dirty work, a lot of times, end up coming out on the good side of this. And college basketball is even more of a issue with that. And I definitely see, I see the teams that have the guys that are willing to not worry about their stats having a lot more success than those big dream team type scenarios.
One thing that when you watch a series like the Jordan series, though, I think the kids can get, if they get nothing else, the absolute commitment to what the commitment to excellence,
to what it takes. And
it's unfreaking believable what that entails.
Well, here's what something like that does. I couldn't be a better example for this, is because I've got 3 boys that have all been involved in basketball their whole lives, and they range from 17 to 22 years old. And if you asked any of them today, who's the best player of all time, they're all going to say LeBron James. But watching that documentary individually without me even saying anything, they have been like, oh my gosh, like I didn't have any idea. It would be like me trying to think about Bill Russell. Like I never physically saw Bill Russell play. And when someone says he's better than Shaq or,
Kareem.
Kareem, exactly. And I'm like, was he? I mean, the people he was playing against weren't very good.
Yeah.
And so you get those same arguments. And now I kind of see that scenario. And my kids came out of that thing like, oh my, there's no doubt he's the best player of all time. And so that's what a documentary like that does. If Michael Jordan, I know he's not worried about people thinking he's going to come out looking like a jerk, even though that's what he said going into that thing. He's going to have a lot more people coming out of it saying he's the best player of all time.
Going to take a quick break here. Coming up, Christian Lander is going to join us. They got some big news that I think is going to make Hoosier Nation very, very excited. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Go to thehoosier.com. Get set up for complete coverage of the IU and Big Ten sports. We'll be back with more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
I see this life like a swinging vine, swing my heart across the
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Go to thehoosier.com for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers and Big Ten. Joined now by Christian Lander from Evansville. Christian, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Good. Todd Leary with us, of course, as well, former Hoosier player. Thanks a lot for joining us, man.
No problem.
I know you've been working really, really hard. Not only have you tried to finish your junior year through this craziness, Christian, but you were trying to do add the added weight in order to reclassify, add the added weight of doing all of that. And it sounds like I think you completed that and are ready to make the move to Bloomington.
Yes, I made the official decision to reclassify to the class of 2020.
So what was involved in that process? Like what I know just making the decision is one thing, but for those of us that don't know, because I've even tried to research it and figure out what that actual process is. What did you have to do to complete not only your junior year, but finish the requirements for your senior year in order to be eligible?
I had to take 4 courses. I had to take 2 semesters of English, a government class, and then an economics class.
All this semester.
Oh, man, a lot of hard work.
Wow. And so are those, so when you make the reclassification, like when you make it official, so are you finished with those? Are they all done? Are they over with?
No, I still got a little bit more to go, but I know I'm going to get them done. So
awesome. Boy, that's what we wanted to hear right there.
Well, I know you've made a lot of people in Hoosier Nation happy, but more importantly, you're making yourself happy because you're going to get an opportunity to play with Trace Jackson Davis and this team. Why was it so important for you to make this move?
I just felt like that I can get my body ready and be mentally and physically prepared to play at the next level at the age that I'm at right now. So I just feel like it was the best move for me.
And, of course, I know you follow the Indiana Hoosiers and all the players they currently have. What are you looking forward to doing as far as what you're able to add to this squad?
I just feel like I'm coming in as a true point guard, and I feel like I can just do whatever they need me to do to contribute to them winning.
I've been watching The Last Dance like everybody else, and I know it's a different version, but, man – You got a little Reggie in you with that body type. If you're a little shorter, but who are some of your NBA guys that I know Reggie's a lot older, but who are some of the guys that you watch you like to emulate?
I'd say John Wall, De'Aaron Fox, and Damian Lillard are the main people I watch.
Of course, Tommy's coming into a great role.
That's not a bad group. If you can. And seeing some of that, like for our older listeners, like I've watched a lot of your films and I got to see you play in person a couple of times. And a lot of times we'll compare guys in the NBA that are more from our time frame. I don't know if you remember Travis Best at all, but you reminded me a lot of Travis Best because he was left-handed as well. And, but I think you're a little better scorer than Travis Best was, which is a really good sign from a comparison perspective, because he was a great NBA player for a long time. And, when you look at what you have done giving up your senior year, like what was the most difficult part? You're the first person I've talked to that's reclassified. So sorry if I have a million questions for you, but what was the most difficult part of giving up your senior year? I mean, I think obviously you would have been, if not the front runner, 1 or 2 in the Mr. Basketball race. What was the most difficult part to make that decision to reclassify?
I'd say it's probably the Mr. Basketball stuff, and possibly, since I'm like a higher ranked person on the rankings, probably McDonald's All-American game and the Jordan Brand game and stuff like that.
I forget about those All-Star games. That makes sense too. Those are just you meet the great players from across the country, and you just kind of develop a bond with those guys that can last for years. So yeah, I get that. I hadn't thought about that side.
And I know this has been so much hard work, but it's not just you. I know your mom, Brandy, and your dad, Keith, they've all been doing this battle with you and helping you, encouraging you to get to this point. The maturity level, we talk about it when you're not on here. I'll be honest with you, Christian, I was not mature enough to do what you're doing. So congratulations to you being able to do that, but having the wherewithal and the effort to do that. I know it has taken a lot of extra hard work for you, but that's the kind of stuff that comes out on the other end on the basketball floor, Todd.
Yeah, Christian, I know we definitely give your parents a lot of credit, but an unnamed source told me that your sister actually was a big factor involved in you making the decision to go to IU. Any truth to the fact your sister was the biggest IU fan in the family?
Yeah, she's a pretty big one. She's been rooting for IU since I've been starting to get recruited by them. So.
Yeah. I had heard that, and she just became really, really popular in the IU family. I can assure you of that.
I had not heard that. Hey, what are you looking forward to the most, Christian? You know you're going to be coming to Bloomington. First of all, I guess the biggest thing is finding out when you're going to be able to come to Bloomington, because right now I guess you don't really know, do you?
No, not the exact date, no.
What are you looking forward to most when you get up here, getting around the teammates, just the college experience, the whole thing? What are you looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to getting into my flow of how things work in college. Mainly just trying to get on the court with my teammates mainly. How
much of a relief for you is it to have this behind you, to be able to say this? Yes, I am reclassifying. I will be there, and not have to worry about that now and all the questions and interviews and all that stuff.
It's a really big weight off my shoulders because that's probably the most frequently asked question I've ever gotten.
Yeah, I can imagine it, because we have all, we've been saying it for months on the show that it's a foregone conclusion that it was going to happen. And it's easy for us to sit here and say it because we don't have to put in the hard work to do it. And that's why I really was interested to know how many classes you had to add on, and because I wasn't a great student and I know how difficult it would have been for me to accomplish what you're doing. So congratulations on getting yourself in a position to do that. Again, I know your family was a big part of helping you get through that process. And so congratulations to all of them. And I know the Indiana fan base is extremely excited to have you in the addition of this class coming in. And I think, I hate to steal cliche statements, but you kind of complete this class and make this class one that everyone was excited for. But now I think the expectation level, which I say that with respect of what it brings for you, but the expectation level just went way up having you as a for sure commitment for these guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Talk about playing with the guys the class you're coming in with. Anthony Leal, Trey Galloway. I know Jordan Geronimo is probably the least known to you, but the opportunity to play with those guys, you're very familiar with Trey and Anthony from your AAU days. What's it like to know you're going to be playing in college with those guys, that comfort level?
I just feel like it's going to be really comfortable since we played a whole summer together. We was around each other all summer. You know how each other acts and plays on the floor, so I feel like it's just going to make it a lot easier.
Well, Christian,
I know you'd have been 2 years apart from them, but did you ever have any interactions with Trayce Jackson-Davis or Armaan Franklin or those guys?
A little bit of Armaan Franklin, but not much of Trayce. I just watched Trayce when he was in high school.
Okay, gotcha.
And watching talk about The Last Dance, those are everybody has aspirations of going to the highest level that they can go to. Of course, the NBA is that for basketball players. Watching that, of course, does that just continue to fuel your fire of continue to try to get better and better?
Yeah, for sure. Just watching and seeing how Michael Jordan never let anyone get the not best of him. Like he was always 100. Uses 100% at all times, so it fuels my fire a lot watching that show.
And that's one of the things that just stood out to me. That it takes a lot, but I don't think too many of us really understand that level of commitment that he showed us, and for you to be in that and someone to see what that takes. Does that help you as you continue to develop, seeing things like that?
Yeah, for sure. Just seeing other people do it, not only Michael Jordan, but other great players that have played in the NBA, seeing how hard they work. Yeah, it definitely helps me a lot.
You know, Todd, here's a great one. He's one that fits right in the category of your kids from an age standpoint. Christian, who do you think was the greatest player, LeBron or Michael, MJ?
Michael Jordan.
See, there you go. Yes.
Attaboy. Did you think
around.
that before? Did you think that before the docuseries?
Yes, for sure. I had arguments with everybody about it.
Basketball IQ test number 1. You just passed.
I think the basketball players, it's a big difference. If you ask the basketball players like Christian, you're not, the fan may give you a different answer, but the players, they know the scoop.
Yep.
Talk about coming into playing in Assembly Hall, that thinking about those type of things. You've been to so many games, Christian, but the thought of being out there on that floor, do you think about that and what that's going to be like?
Yeah, I think about it a lot, honestly. This is how I already know the crowd's going to be full like it is every time I go to Assembly Hall. So I'm just looking forward to it, to be honest.
And we talk about having those great crowds. You in a high school level, you played in front of a lot of great crowds over your career. What does that do for you, for your game? Do you block it out or do you use it to help your game?
At the beginning, I don't really use the crowd, but once my teammates or I gets it going, I use the crowd a lot because it kind of pumps me up a little bit.
Well, how happy, I'm sure your mom, Brandy, and Dad Keith are very excited that this news is out and that they don't have to deal with it as well either, as where, of course, you are as well. But it's just a big relief for the entire family, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
Well, Kristen, we cannot thank you enough for taking the time to join us. We can't congratulate you enough. Looking forward to you getting to Bloomington and enjoying a great career in Bloomington as an Indiana Hoosier. I know that you've worked hard to get there, and we want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and have a good rest of the summer as you prepare to come to Bloomington.
All right, you too.
Thank you very much. Here's Christian Lander, the next Hoosier, joining us here as his 2020 is realignment to the 2020 class is confirmed, and he is headed to Bloomington. We, like Todd mentioned this earlier, we kind of pretty much had thought that all along. It was a matter of getting the things done, but he sees the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's happening. So that's got to be a great news for Hoosier Nation.
Yeah, no, it is, and that's it's awesome to. I don't want to say set that goal, but kind of challenge yourself from his perspective and challenge himself to go ahead and get those courses done. I mean, that can't be an easy process. I mean, I didn't ask what he plans on majoring in, but let's just say it's not going to be English. I mean, if he had to take 2 extra English classes, I mean, that's not stuff that just comes fairly naturally to you. I mean, it wouldn't have to me. It wouldn't have to me. I can assure you that. So. I believe me, I respect him as much right now for being able to accomplish that as I do any basket he scored in high school. That's for sure.
It's certainly a lot, man. And that probably gives you an indication of workload.
It does. It tells you that he's got a work ethic that is, really, really good. And it tells you he comes from a good support system. I'm telling you, I can't stress enough how big a deal that is. And I know you've had correspondence with his family. And they have been very, very supportive and beneficial to him in that regard. I was extremely happy to hear. I had a little birdie tell me that his sister was.
Yeah, that was cool. A bit of information. I had not heard that before. That was a cool little bit of information. I had not heard that. A nice little tip there. I bet he's going to burn that key card up, the Cook Hall key card that they get in with. He just seems like a gym rat kind of guy.
I was just getting ready to say he is kind of reminds me of the definition of gym rat, and that is something that you don't have to force other guys to follow. When you're a gym rat, it's almost like it becomes contagious without ever saying a word. And that's something that I think all of these guys, I shouldn't say that. I do not know Jordan Geronimo, so I keep lumping him into that category. And I think he probably will be, but I think Anthony Leal and Trey Galloway and now Christian Lander will be guys that will, I think their leadership will step in. They won't be like freshmen. They will to begin. They'll kind of follow the lead a little bit from the beginning, but I think it won't be long before those guys' basketball IQs and attitudes start to take over this team.
Yeah, I think that attitude period, the team wide you're going to see a marked difference this year. I just think they want that. They know that they need that. They've played without it, and they know that that's not good. That you have to have it. It's you cannot not have just great team chemistry and win.
That is an understated statement, because you can have all the talent in the world, and if they don't like each other and don't get along, they're not going to, gel as well and play as well as they could. Because when you've got everybody working together to accomplish the same thing, that's kind of the magic of basketball and team sports. And, we've seen both sides of that in Indiana over the last several years. And I think we got a group coming in that we'll all talk about years down the road as a great, great group of kids.
Man, I want to thank JoJo Smith for joining us today. The Hall of Famer was on with us. Always having fun talking to Joe. Of course, Christian Lander from Evansville, Bosse, now going to be a Hoosier as he's about to complete his all his assignments to get reclassified to the 2020 class. He will be in Bloomington this fall, so everyone's excited about that. Looking forward to tomorrow. C-Watt, Christian Watford's going to join us. Looking forward to that as we continue, man. It's been another great day. It's kind of wet out there, so no golf for Todd today.
Nope. Probably a couple day relief here.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Well, man, thanks a lot to everybody. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot for Todd, to Jimmy. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.